Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Flore Belin. I am Renewable Energy Policy Coordinator at Climate Action Network Europe, so CAN Europe. And I'm really happy to be here today to talk about wind energy and spatial planning here for the Slovenian case, and also with all the different national cases that we will listen to today. So I've been asked to give a broader European context, and notably when it comes to the new legislations, and especially with the obligation on special planning for member states and the consequent designation of renewable acceleration areas. And maybe first to start, because I'm not sure that everybody knows CAN Europe. So as Katia said, we are Climate Action Network Europe, and we are the Europe's leading NGO coalition fighting dangerous climate change. We have over 200 member organizations from 40 European countries, meaning that we are in the EU, but we are also representing the NGOs beyond the EU. We also have some members from Turkey as well. And we represent an overall 1,700 NGOs, which represent more than 47 million citizens. So our main goal is to promote sustainable climate, energy, and development policy throughout Europe, and especially for energy. On the energy side, we actively work on advocate for a fair and sustainable transition towards a 100% renewable energy system by 2040. And this is alongside a energy demand reduction of 50% by 2040. And this, it should be specifically contributed to acceleration the solar and wind deployment at the pace and scale required by the climate crisis, with people and nature at core. So we have a real social and fair energy transition as well. So our tools for this at CAN Europe is we have our campaign called Together for 100% Renewables Europe. The name says it all, and I've already explained the 100% target that we are aiming to achieve for the EU. And we also have our Paris Agreement compatible scenario, that is a bottom-up civil society led energy scenario, and also climate scenario actually, that proves that 100% renewables by 2040 is possible and will enable us to reach climate neutrality by that time. So maybe just a heads up here, we have just updated our PAC scenario. Here you can see our 6 main takeaways of this scenario, and actually today we are presenting the scenario to in the context of a very high level event today in Brussels with MEPs and ministers. So you will get some information from us as well later. So in Slovenia, just to make sure that it's fully underlined here, we have 2 members at CAN Europe. So we have, of course, Focus, and then we have Umanutera, so the Slovenian Foundation for Sustainable Development. Now, when it comes to wind and renewables in Europe, so renewables and including wind have reached quite a new high, outpacing actually fossil sources for electricity production across Europe for a 2nd year in a row, which is a record that needs to keep going for the future. And maybe for some numbers, so for instance, for onshore wind energy, the capacity in the EU has seen a steady increase. So, for instance, by 2023, the installed capacity reached 221 gigawatts. So, while in 2022, it was 204 gigawatts, and in 21, it was 188 gigawatts. So, we can see quite a steady increase. So, renewables is definitely expanding in Europe, but despite this outstanding growth, we can see that the deployment rate is not enough. And this is a fact, since so the EU is saying that to achieve our 2030 targets, we need to double our capacity. And this is only the capacities, because then we have some other key issues, that is, for instance, the grids. That is very important, for instance, when we talk about this designation of renewable acceleration areas. And many members are lagging behind. So Katia just said that, for instance, in Slovenia, there are quite some backlash with renewables due to some, well, many reasons, national reasons. And notably in the EU, what we can see is that one of the biggest bottleneck that we have is permitting granting, that can go up to 12 years, sometimes for some wind project, especially in the offshore side. So here I tried in this slide to summarize so what we have currently in the EU legislation. So as you may already know, the EU adopted last year its very last version of the Renewable Energy Directive, so RED III, that really aim at promoting the use of renewables in the overall consumption of the EU. So RED II was saying 32% by 2030. Now we are saying 42.5%, with actually a 2.5% top up to go up to 45% by 2030. But this is non-binding. Really, the binding number really to take into account here is the 42.5%. And this is all across all sectors. So transport, industry, buildings, you name them. And so, as I said, one of the key barrier to tackle here was the lengthy permitting granting process. And RED III is trying to address this issue. And notably, one of the tools to address this is to do the work before the permitting granting, which is what is our land availability in the EU. And so we need first to have a special planning process, and this is an obligation set for the member states by so next year, actually. So this is a very tight timeline for member states. So by May 2025, member state will have to identify the domestic potential. The domestic potential of the country, and then the available surfaces necessary actually to achieve these targets. Then, based on this special planning, there will be an obligation to designate some renewable acceleration area that will really enable to fasten the permitting process in general. So this is especially for solar and wind. This is something really important to underline here. It's mainly solar and wind. And there's some other obligation as well for heat pumps, but this is not the topic of today. And there's also some specific obligation for the grid, actually, for the grids, meaning that when we have some zones that are appropriate to install these new units, we need to make sure that they are not at the top of a mountain. Because first of all, environmentally speaking, it doesn't make any sense, but also technically speaking, we are not going to expand the grids on the top of the mountain. Because also one of the key bottlenecks that we have here and that we will face for this next mandate is the money. So we really need to be optimizing the technical use, the financial use of our installations. So at Can Europe, we are actively working actually on how to support the member states and the EU to designate the right renewable acceleration areas. And we have, we published last May this report, so an overview of renewable energy spatial planning and designation of acceleration area in selected EU member states. So the EU member states were, so it was Spain, Portugal, Poland, Germany, Estonia, and Greece. So please click if you have any interest of knowing what's going on in these countries. I have another slide afterward with some information, but here really what I want to outline here is our 6 recommendations when it comes to spatial planning for renewables. So first of all, of course, we need to enhance the public participation. So the public participation needs to be as early as possible. It needs to be accessible and transparent towards the public engagement and participation. Then we need to implement more accurate and science-based data collection methods to inform the decision-making process. And this goes as well with the data collection. We need data collection. And so this is also for NGOs like a big role to help member states to collect the right data, for instance, when it comes to migratory birds routes. This is only an example. Then we have, of course, sorry, to ensure a strong coordination between national, regional, and local authorities, depending, of course, of the organizational system of the member states. But when we talk about lands, definitely local level needs to be at the heart of the process as well. They are the experts and they know their lands. Then, of course, you have the overcome the administrative burden. So by investing in skilled people and efficiency administrative system. Then, so this is very important actually for us at Can Europe and for the NGOs in Europe, is really to prioritize artificial and dual land use areas. So this is what I said before as well, is that we need to make sure that the land that we are using are low sensitive, environmentally low sensitive. And so here we can talk about brownfield rooftop solar. It can be also along the highways with some canopies. So there are multiple example of these suitable lands. Then, so as I said, grid is very important, and we need to invest more in grid capacity, but in a clever way. So we need to ensure that new renewable projects are developed closer to grids, and maybe also to add something on top of these 6 recommendations, is that member states need to be supported through a robust periodic monitoring and review processes. And this is what we are trying to do as well, to make sure that member states have the right information when it comes to RED, because this is a Bible. I mean, it's Bible in a way that it's so important, but as well, there's so much information to take into account. And so we want to make sure that everything is on the table. So the designation and the spatial planning is as fair and sustainable as possible. And as Katia said, learn from the best practice. We need to exchange, we need to share our example with all stakeholders, based on our expertise on the field. So talking about expertise and case studies, I told you that our report was focusing on 6 member states. Here you can already find some takeaways that can be interesting for you in terms of, so the ambitions of renewable energy policy, but also how they are doing right now in terms of spatial planning process and other important points, such as the integration of public participation in the process. So if you have any question, please let me know. Just note that we'll do a follow-up report next year after that the deadline is expired when it comes to spatial planning obligations, so May 2025. So I think I've already said a lot. So if you have any question, please let me know. And maybe just as a conclusive word, definitely renewable acceleration areas can be game changer if they're developed fast, but especially with quality. Quality is really the key word here. Otherwise, it can be really a break or make issue, and there can be quite some backlash. But we are optimistic about this process, and we are really actively monitoring it. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.
A very warm welcome from Burgenland. Thank you, Katja, for introducing me. As you said, there is some legal basis for my part in my home country, and above this, we do a lot of coordination, especially on bigger projects, and also wind power, photovoltaics, solar power are usually on a high level now. So we are coordinating, and when I say it's the Umweltanwalt, and me and my co-workers are coordinating NGOs, experts, politics in a very participating process, just to make sure that we not only that we can realize these projects, also that this goes in a very straight timeline. Burgenland is a very small part of Austria. We are based in the very east. As you said, we have more than 30% of protection areas, main landscape protection, which is more focused on the south, and nature protection, which is a very interesting part, because the blue one, you see the Lake Neusiedl, which is a very restricted nature area. And it's very interesting area, because this is the area where the most wind is located. So the wind power is mainly focused on the very northern part of Burgenland. So I have to look at the clock here. So this is the area we're talking about, where the wind park is. In the back you can see the sea, which is really huge, and it's a lot of grape growing and something like that. And this is also typical. Also here you see the sea in the horizon, and so typical village. And as you can imagine, it's not easy to put large wind power plants in this area, and you have to look very carefully how this can happen. As you said, we started in Burgenland very early with some to define areas where this could happen. It started in the 1990s. The story when nothing was in Burgenland concerning any alternative energy. About 2000, the governor said we should increase or start to use wind power, and then the story began. At the very early beginning, there was defined areas where you can put the wind plants, as there is very strict nature protection in the area of Lake Neusiedl, and a lot of birds coming during the summer season. So you have to take care where could this be, and other areas which are excluded. And this was a real challenge, and the way we could reach it was a cooperation between the NGOs, with WWF and BirdLife, with local experts, with experts from the government, and also the politics were very concerned in it. And from the very beginning, the Umweltanwalt, not me in this time, but one of my predecessors, started to coordinate the everything concerning nature protection, to put it together and to speak with one word. As the story you see, in 2030, we had 300 wind turbines in production, and 2022, we had 430 wind turbines in operation, producing 150% of the electric energy demand in Burgenland. This is a typical typical graph from a day. In red, you see the consumption, and the black line is the production, and of course you see this is combined wind power and photovoltaics, and this is typical. You have a production peak during the day. When you of course, this is only one day. If there is a lot of wind, it looks different. So here you have a whole month in the same concerning the same topics. In orange, you see the consumption, and in black, you see the demand. So it's clear, even if we produce 150% of our needed energy, we are not independent, because there are some times where you have to import if there are low radiation and low wind. For example, in middle of summer, there are some times where this happens. Concerning the amounts, it's nearly 90% wind energy, and the rest is photovoltaics. As said before, it needed to have a very fixed policy, which is done by the government, and we have now goals for about 500 wind turbines in the year 2025, and at the moment we are increasing the photovoltaics. We said 50% of the electrical energy goals should come from roofs, from buildings, and the other 50% should come from power plants in the area. So here you see it, what is planned in Burgenland and what is said by the governor. At 2021 we had about 7 terawatt-hours, 7 terawatt-hours fossil energy, and renewables 7, and so this should this is very ambitious, but I think we could manage it in 2030. The goal is to have everything on renewable energy sources. The legal basis is written down in a special planning act. We have in photovoltaics the 4th level. Everything is about, I think, 1,000 hectares. So, and wind turbines also. There are special acts. We are written in written law, so everybody has to know what's planned, and it has a real strong legal basis. Austria, as a state, has a Renewable Energy Acceleration Act, but also Burgenland, as in my country, did one of our own, and this is where these goals are defined. The process of defining areas where for energy plants, alternative, mainly wind power, and since a few years photovoltaics, has a strong history in Burgenland and is always in direct cooperation with very important NGOs, for example WWF and BirdLife, especially concerning the bird problems. We are very proud that the WWF stated in the year 2014 that is Burgenland is like a role model to do it, because we are participating these experts in a very early part of the process of planning and installing a wind plant. Yeah, and you can, everybody can check this paper done by WWF. The zoning process was refined since the legal basis was presented. So it didn't change in the I think concerning the people and parties participating. It was a bit more structured, because it leads to a legal to written law. It starts with a broad-based process where we have lawyers, NGOs, we have World Heritage, because the whole area about the Lake Neusiedl, I will show you afterwards, is part of World Heritage. So it's not so easy to do something in this area. We have the municipalities, the local authorities. After this first process, there is as a result a resistance. We call it resistance map. Resistance, because if there are zones that we at this level of taking care of the nature and landscape, there should be no problem. In area there are some problems visible, but maybe there is a solution for it. And the third thing is that this is a zone where absolutely no power plant could be installed. And so it leads from a kind of bird view to a very specific definition of the zones. This is sorry, I don't have it in English, but this is the process, starting with this bird view. Let's call it bird view, where everybody puts some input inside. There starts the workshops with the experts, with BirdLife, with everybody, and we say, okay, this area could work. Then the result is checked by experts if it works, and here also are there power grids, are there transformators, is it possible also on an economical way to deliver the power somewhere. Then here comes the municipals and the local people, because we go with some ideas and also more or less fixed areas, and then there's the participation process where the municipals can say, okay, this area could work for me. No, this is not possible, and then it goes farther and leads into a written zone, which is it's based on written law. In every zone, in every part of the process, there also is taking away some areas because of anything, because of nature protection and landscape protection, maybe in this area because of local problems in this part of the process. And the red circles show where my person, as the Umweltanwalt, is involved. So I'm there in every process, and therefore I think I was invited to this conference just because I have an inside view of the whole process. For example, how this works. We have, as called the exclusion criteria. This is mainly done by experts and also by the energy companies, which say, okay, this might be a nice place, but we don't have a power grid there. We don't have capacity in our transformators to put this away. Yeah. Then we have this conflict areas. This is not the mainly targeted area, but if it is because of ideal topographical things, because there's so much wind and then they'll start a special review process, and this may lead in a acceleration area, but this also may lead in, okay, the conflict cannot be solved, so this area has to be excluded. I have the actual numbers from, for example, for photovoltaics. We had for the photovoltaics, the exclusion criteria was about 55% of the area of Burgenland. The conflict criteria was 36% of Burgenland, and no exclusion and conflicts about 10%. This means this doesn't mean that there's no there could be no conflicts, but no conflicts from a higher point of view. So we have about 46% of our landscape which are theoretically mathematically used for photovoltaics. This is the map to this. The gray area is the exclusion zones. You see here the lake, of course, and the World Heritage. Nothing can be there. The red areas are conflicts which are very hard to solve. So this is hard stuff. Maybe it's not very easy to install things there. The green parts, we have some here, which there are conflicts, but they may be solved. And the yellow part is where this, for example, in this case, photovoltaic in the areas could be possible. To have a closer look how this works, as I said, this is especially the lake Neusiedl is used by birds traveling through migration birds. So in very strong cooperation with BirdLife, we have some flight corridors defined. The flight corridors are about 20 years old and are monitored, and they work very good. Also we have very less bird loss by flying in wind power plants. And you see here the flight corridors which are used by birds, and they have to be free. So in this red marked areas, there's no wind power possible. You see the main migration paths, and also if there are here, you see here this habitats where they are living and reproduction areas, which are also no-go areas. But between, you see this green points, and here in these areas there is an opportunity to wind farms, and these points, they are actually realized wind power plants. But you see, these corridors have to be free, and still they are free at the moment. Of course, if you define something and this works, you need really expert level knowledge, and this is done by BirdLife WWF and other specialists just to work out this. And this map is one result of the first process, involving experts in the whole thing, because then we are talking about these areas and these areas. Yeah, this map is concerning only nature protection, but also landscape protection comes in role, because as I said, this is World Heritage, and we have here the red line, which is World Heritage. Absolutely nothing can happen here, and there is the core zone, and the viewing zone is in purple. Is also here nothing is possible. As you can see, there are some wind plants realized very nearly the viewing zone, and this is kind of tricky to plan such a wind park, cause of very difficult viewing assessments. But I will give you a short impression of in order to you see how this works. So here you have another map where you see the realized wind plants 400. And you see very nice here the corridors which have to keep open for the birds using the lake Neusiedl. Concerning of landscape protection, there is always a very detailed look at the heights, the possible heights of the wind plants, and the process starts that we are defining viewpoints from mainly from the villages, but also from touristic sites where some people are, and then these you see here, these viewpoints are defined in cooperation with a lot of also with touristic managers. What are important views, and how can we do it that the landscape should work, and this leads to a restriction of hay. You see, for example, here in this area we have 190 meters, and here I have 207 meters, and possible ranges we have here, for example, is also an area 200 meters here and 245 meters here in this area. And how do we know that this is good? We start with also with this analysis of viewpoints, and starting with photos from this area. Then it's modeled. This is the actual state. In this case, it's a repowering. This means some of the wind power plants are taken away and replaced by high ones. And here you see the difference. This is the new one from this viewpoint, and then the experts are discussing if from this viewpoint this is okay or this is not okay. For example, this was concerned okay because it's there are some wind plants. You see it here. This is this viewpoint from the border of the village, and yes, it was concerned okay. Also, we are starting from a viewpoint in a village. This is modeled in a three-dimensional model, and you see this is the actual state, how it is in nature, and this is the planned state with I see only a few more wind plants if they are a problem or not. What we learned is if you build a higher wind plant, this doesn't seem to be higher. They seem to be nearer. So when you look at this wind plant here, do you see the mouse pointer? Okay. This is you see this wind plant is not nearer than the other ones, but it seems nearer. And if you have a lot of new wind plants, this is it starts a discussion if this is okay for the village, for the inhabitants, or for touristic things to have virtually nearer wind plants or not. We also in this area also we have World Heritage and nature protection. This is a very critical point, and it's the same wind plant here. So we have up to 20 kilometers viewpoints just to have a look if this is a problem or not. This was especially done for the UNESCO, also for World Heritage assessment. Also three-dimensional modeled, but static modeled. And you see here a view of this wind park. When it comes to repowering, these wind plants are replaced and they are higher ones. And here you see the problem, because they look, when you see here, there's only a few wind plants above the horizon, and if the newer ones are built this way, they are very high. And this leads to this, that we have an area here which only lower wind plants are allowed, because they are so much visible from the viewpoint, from the critical viewpoints. Especially for the assessment of UNESCO and World Heritage, we had a project modeling the whole area in practice dynamical three-dimensional virtual reality, using the Unreal is actually a game engine, but used a lot in 3D modeling. That the advantage of this process is you can move your viewpoint freely through the area. You can generate bird views. You can sit on a street. You can go everywhere. It was very important for the World Heritage to have these views for coming to a positive to come to that we get a positive feedback, because with this you can in real time change the height of the power plants, and in real time you can change the views, and we had a virtual reality session. We have one in the next 2 weeks again for an area, and as you can imagine, this is quite expensive thing, but it's the only way we can solve this landscape rotation issues in this area, which is a very sensible area. So yes, at the end, there also we have also bats flying through for the whole area, especially when there are some trees or small woods, and this is also before the first workshops begin, we have for example, some kind of bed modeling. We know what kind of beds are living there, if they are flying high beds or beds they are flying near the ground. And if they are flying high, there is, for example, the wind power plants have to be higher, and this can lead also to very interesting configurations in the wind park. Yes. The collision monitoring is also part. After the plants are installed, there starts a lot of monitoring, which has to be paid by the companies. Just to show if this process works, if the exclusion areas work, and if there is a problem, there's also the opportunity that it has to be shut down. And therefore, it's very important to have experts there, that the corridors work, and every the restriction of Higgs works. The requirements and measures work. Yeah. And this is what it looks like in this area. This is a wind power plant, and since a few years, we see that the bigger photovoltaics are always combined with wind power, because there's a strong synergy on energy production. For example, this is at the moment the biggest one in Austria, 120 megawatts photovoltaics combined with 90 megawatts wind power, and you get efficiency about 90% in the year on the transformator. So it's a role model which is done in Austria at the moment, because usually these areas where a lot of wind plants are situated, this is not so critical for landscape protection, and these are predesignated areas for photovoltaics. So I want to thank you for listening, and if there are any questions, I will try to answer.
So sorry about this. My name is Dirk Vansintjan, as said. For me, the whole journey in renewable energy started actually a bit by coincidence. I thought of becoming an organic farmer, but we didn't find a farm. We found an old derelict watermill, a national monument, so we had to restore it. It used to have a hydro turbine, a small one, 70 kilowatt, that used to provide the whole village with electricity between 1907 and 1947. And we also had to restore this. And to give you the context of how Belgium was, how the framework was, the economical framework for renewables until the mid-1990s in Belgium, when we told the electricity company, which was half municipal owned, half privately owned, that we could provide them with a lot of electricity. According to us, it was a lot, for more than 200 households. They told us, you will have to pay us to accept the electricity. So there was no framework for renewable energy in Belgium. So that's how actually I became a lobbyist for renewable energy. And this resulted in a series of creation of organizations, not-for-profit organizations, and then also a cooperative, which is called EcoPower, in 1991. In 1997, we created a lobby organization for renewable energy in Flanders. I will say often Flanders because renewable energy is a competence of the regions in Belgium. And then a few years later, we also created a Belgian Federation of Renewable Energy Cooperatives and a European one in 2013, and one in Wallonie and one in Flanders. So that's a picture of the mill where I live now, where I'm sitting actually now. So 3 years ago, we had a big celebration. Our cooperative that was created in this water mill our cooperative was 30 years old. And actually I used this presentation because it gives an overview of the growth of not only EcoPower, but of the movement in Belgium and in Europe. So there's an interesting film made by Patagonia. I'm also wearing a t-shirt of Patagonia to thank them, about our movement, We the Power. An important person from Germany who is very present at the end of the movie, unfortunately died last week, so we were a bit sad about this. So I come out of the ecological movement, green movement. Here you see me in front of a demonstration against nuclear missiles. So a lot of the cooperatives we have, energy cooperatives, they are a reaction to a problem. There were cooperatives created more than 100 years ago when the whole of Europe was electrified. But some people were left behind, people in mountainous areas, people in rural areas, and there people or public authorities as well, they took initiative and they provided themselves with electricity. My cooperative is actually more a result to the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl, where we realized that we had to work on alternatives. So this is the mill. It was for sale to tear it down, but then it was protected as a monument. In 1991, we created a cooperative actually to gather the money to match the subsidies for the restoration of the turbine. And a few years later, the Belgian government sold an experimental wind farm. Already in the 80s, Belgium had an industrial wind turbine manufacturer, but due to the fact that they couldn't sell wind turbines in their own country, actually they went bankrupt. So this was a mistake when you look at it. When you look back, Belgium thought nuclear was the future, which turns out not to be true actually. So we had to lobby to change this legal framework, and I must say we were quite successful, because until the mid-90s, the price of electricity and gas was set by a sort of informal committee of gas and electricity, where actually the big private monopolist dictated what the price was, and the consumers were represented by the labor unions, which actually were the labor unions working in the sector, and they had very favorable wages and electricity price and gas price at home. So we translated the German legislation into Dutch and French, and we put it on, the Green parties put it on the table in the Belgian Senate, and then they gave us what we needed. They offered us 1 Belgian franc per kilowatt hour. We said we need 2. And this made wind and solar PV also possible in Belgium. So the city of Eeklo, after the climate conference in Rio in 1992, if I'm not mistaken, the slogan then was think global, act local. So they made a plan for what they could do on their own property. And they came up with a place for 3 wind turbines in the city of Eeklo. And afterwards, and they did this together with a lot of participation and consultation and information, trips to wind farms in the Netherlands, for instance. And then they decided to look for a partner. They did a public tender, as a municipality has to do. And we took part in this tender, and surprise, surprise, we won the tender, although the city of Eeklo was a shareholder of the mixed DSO in Eeklo. Due to the superb, the very good preparation, there was not one complaint against the 3 wind turbines, because everyone knew they were coming, what they were. They experienced it, so they knew what was coming. And to go to today, I think now in Eeklo there are more than 20 wind turbines. Unfortunately, only 3 of them are ours. But against all the others, there's no opposition at all, because it fits the plans of the municipality. So in 1991, one of our princes, Prince Laurent, is a bit of a character. He enthusiastically started the groundworks. We had to tell him to stop because it was 2 meters away from the actual place. So 2 years later, so we produced electricity quite a lot. Our members were happy with the first dividend. We gave them 6% from the moment we had wind turbines. That's the maximum we can do as a cooperative. Our General Assembly, to the surprise of the board, they decided that we would become a supplier because Europe made this possible with the directive. And so we discovered how it worked. We started with 10 people, members of our board, the guy from the cabinet of the minister who pleaded that we would become a new supplier because they needed new suppliers and there were no candidates actually. And so we started with 10, then 250, and 6 months later, 1,000. So it took us a while before we discovered how it worked, being a supplier. But I can tell you now, a bit proudly, that we now supply almost 2% of the Flemish households, which is about 60,000 households, with the electricity we produce ourselves with wind turbines, solar panels, a bit of hydro. That's it. So, so we also, our board, our General Assembly said we can't do this with the volunteers. Start paying yourself, the people who do all the work. So actually, I was the first half-time employee. I had to do everything, although I'm a linguist. I'm not an engineer or whatever. So in the beginning we had to do everything and work in weekends and late at night. We also saw that PV was still quite expensive for a lot of people, and so we installed 300 PV installations, small PV installations on roofs of our members who couldn't afford it at that moment. So we also noticed, and this is a nice movie if you get the presentation and if the link works. Then you see that the people, this guy, he pruned this tree so he could see the wind turbine also in summer. So they said, well, it's our wind turbine. I'm happy if I see it every morning. We won some prizes. And then the financial crisis struck the whole of Europe, the whole world. 2012, it was our first year we didn't give a dividend. For 11 years, we had given a dividend of 6%. But in 2012, the whole support mechanism went to a minimum. Also, the electricity price dropped significantly. And so, that was a turning point. So some people left who were there for the 6%. Others joined us who were there for the low price of electricity we are able to offer because we don't take profit as a cooperative. And so we had more and more contacts, first with our Dutch colleagues, because we as Flemish, we share the same language, Dutch with the Netherlands. And we exchanged not only experience, but also cheese, and we brought them beer. And so we got this idea also after we were able to help a French energy cooperative in REScoop with getting a bank guarantee for the green electricity they had to purchase from the public utility, EDF. We had this idea of creating a European cooperation, cooperation across borders. And in 2013, the European Federation, REScoop EU, was founded. And since then, for my cooperative, EcoPower, I'm the president until May next year, when I've been there for long enough. 2014, we noticed before that our members, quite a lot of our members, still heated their homes with fossil fuel, and we wanted to provide them with an ecological alternative, which is wood pellets from our own country. And it was a hard lesson, let's say. It's a fantastic factory, but last year we closed it because we had to deal with a sudden influx of Turkish pellets, which almost certainly come from Russia, and so at a very low price, and yeah, people didn't buy our pellets anymore. So that's a bit of that was a hard lesson. In 2015, we created a Flemish federation because most of the renewable energy is regionalized. So we didn't have much to talk about with our Walloon colleagues, our French-speaking colleagues. So we created 2 federations next to the Belgian one. We won another award. We installed new wind turbines. And we, in 2017, we became the official partner of the city of Leuven, which is a university city, to help them start investing in renewable energy in the city. We expanded this to the whole province, and as a result, 4 new energy cooperatives were created. We have a new office. Total EcoPower now employs 60 people. Yeah. Another award. And then we started a whole new chapter. So we started investing also in the city of Eeklo in heat networks. There are practically no heat networks for the moment in Belgium. So everyone has his own individual heating, mainly on gas. And so we have to get rid of gas in the not that long term. So we, in this case, near to Antwerp, we distribute heat coming from an industrial plant that produces the films for X-rays. It's the only one in the world still doing this. So new logo. This is something special. In the city of Eeklo, we replaced one of our old wind turbines, the 3 old ones. They are already dismantled, actually. And we were able to replace one by a bigger one. But 2 weeks before the wind turbine was installed, the company went bankrupt. And so one of our engineers and board members, he made agreements with all the curators of these, because not only the company, the wind turbine went bankrupt, but all their suppliers went bankrupt. And so the blades were somewhere in Portugal. I don't know where everything was. The turbine itself was partly in Poland and partly in Germany. So he made all the agreements, and we brought it together, and we built the wind turbine together with the company who would build it. And so afterwards, the curators asked us if we could do this for other companies who ordered the wind turbine, because there were several still lying there, but we declined this actually. So yeah, we work very well together with the other energy communities, energy cooperatives, because EcoPower serves as in Flanders as a supplier of electricity also to members of the other energy cooperatives. And so, as I told you, we tore down the first 3 wind turbines. They were at the end of their life. So these are the figures of 3 years ago. So I can tell you what so we now have 70,000 members and 60,000 clients. We have about 30 wind turbines now. Also solar panels, it will be, I think it's more closer to 12 megawatt installed now. I must say we're not allowed to put solar panels in fields or meadows, we have to do it with the many roofs we have in Flanders. So it's all small. So we have 2 heat networks, 3 small hydropower plants. The wood pellet factory is closed now. And until 2021, we produced a lot of green electricity. We had 100 million euro investments. It will be closer to 140 now. And we distribute a lot of dividends as well. Now we have 60 enthusiastic colleagues. So it's a bit of Dutch for you. In front of the mill where I'm sitting now, actually. And then an interesting story is also what happened during the latest gas price crisis. We call it a gas price crisis, but actually there was gas enough due to the crisis started due to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the war there. And this showed what happened with the price of my cooperative. And the green line is the price of my cooperative, and the red line is the market price. Other suppliers on top, they take their profit. So the difference between the two in 2022 alone was more than 500 euros. So our people paid less. So we say we shielded them from the worst peaks in the energy prices because we produce the electricity mainly ourselves. Only when there's no wind and no sun, we have to buy on the market. That's sometimes at very high prices. But if you make the calculation, only in that year, it was more than 22.5 million euro. We shielded them from the high prices the other suppliers charged people. Yeah, that was my presentation. I must say we're very happy with our collaboration with ECLO, but also with other cities. On the European level, we work very closely together with networks of cities and municipalities like Energy Cities, but also like Climate Alliance and ICLE. It is, especially in rural areas, we see that actually it's us energy cooperatives or energy communities, as Europe calls us now, that we support politicians, we support municipalities in reaching their climate targets, rather than the other way around. For instance, in the city of Eeklo, there's one engineer, he has a desk in the municipal town hall, and everyone thinks he's paid by the town, but actually he's paid by the cooperative. So we also provide support to municipalities. If you want to know more about our collaboration with municipalities across Europe, on the website of REScoop EU, you can find a municipal guide about collaborations. There's a lot of information there, but I will also provide the links to Organizers Focus, which is one of our supporting organizations, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I hope that you hear me well. I just would like to ask for the co-hosting right so I can share the presentation. I'm sorry, I'm the one who needs to leave, despite the fact I'm from the Czech Republic. Greetings from Tbilisi, Georgia, where I'm running another workshop that starts at 11:15 your time. So I'm sorry for it. I'll try to be brief, and hopefully it's going to be interesting. And greetings also to Lukáš, who is here with me, the representative of the local action group. As said before, I'm a co-founder of the Participation Factory. We are not energy experts. It's important to say clearly upfront. So what we specialize in is designing and implementing participatory processes. And I believe that the Wojciechów story is quite interesting and inspiring, especially for the Central Eastern European territory. Lukáš, as said, is the project manager who took care of, he took part during the whole deliberative process, and I will definitely give him a floor to reflect on what we have been doing. So, long story short, the way how that worked, As said, we are not experts in energy. We are really focusing more on participatory planning as a field of expertise. And why I'm saying it, it was quite interesting for us because I've been doing this for more than a decade, but working mostly on projects that are connected to public space, urban planning, creating of the strategy, creating and management of the stakeholder platforms, as well as advising on the civic tech or e-participation, mostly to the public sector, and so on and so on. But then suddenly last year, I'll try to say it as a story. Then suddenly last year, this company called Noho, which is a real estate developer, as well as they are involved in wind energy projects. They approached us and asked us if we could help them to basically take care of the whole deliberation with the local community. Maybe it's important to also kind of describe super quickly, and again, I'm not an expert, how the situation on the Czech market looks like at the moment. We are kind of experiencing a renaissance of wind and solar. Because as you can see from all the data available, we are pretty much behind in the EU. Unfortunately, it's a little bit of a mess when it comes to procedures, when it comes to how to consult and when the public, and we've been experiencing a lot of, I would say, horror stories from the field. Exactly as the colleague from Slovenia said, communities kind of getting together, protesting, and so on and so on. I have my answers to it and I have my opinion about it, but this is where we came kind of like into the game. Maybe it's a perfect time to give the floor to Lukáš to kind of describe what actually the region of Hlinecko is and what the local action group does and how they're involved in the energy strategies and plan sustainable energy. Lukáš, hi.
Thank you everybody for introduction. LAG Hlinecko is a non-government organization, and the last 2 years we are opening quite new topic in Czech Republic as decentralization and democratization of energy sector. We are trying proceed conceptually. So we are working on a local energy strategy, providing consulting services to the public and spreading idea that regular people can have their own role in the transforming energy sector. Because whole energy sector in Czech Republic been strictly centralized for too long, so people need to change their minds first.
Okay. The part of the process where we were invited in, and basically now I'll zoom in and focus on the participatory part of the whole negotiation with the community. The way how it has worked with the Noho company is that they assessed the location. They basically preemptively assessed if it's possible to build on the land in the region where Lukáš comes from. And once they came into the negotiation table with the local council of the local municipality, literally a village, they basically were asked by the council to run a participatory process so the council can get high value feedback from the community if the community agrees that the council signs what we call in the Czech Republic planning contract, a contract about the future plan. So that's the kind of like a basic logic and a framework where we kind of appeared and used all our know-how and expertise from before in order to pull off the project. So basically what we did and what was our role is to build a bridge between the consultation bridge between the leadership of the municipality, the public, the investor, but also other players and actors in the region, such as the local action group, Hlinecko, that Lukáš represents. But if needed, we could bring maybe representatives of the regional government, external experts, and others. The goal of the process was to give transparent chance to the community to digest all the information, to understand what the project is about, and most importantly, to agree with the investor as well as with the leadership of the municipality what type of benefits and compensations they will get from the projects. So that was the logical framework. As said before, like me personally, as well as my team, we've done over 500 participatory projects in 14 countries up till now. So this specific case has not been really difficult for us. What was interesting to see, and I'm talking about the Czech Republic alone, and maybe this translates also to the rest of kind of Central Eastern European areas, was to see what kind of best or bad practice has been up till now done in other projects. Maybe if I can just pinpoint few problems that we've seen. Investors, and the gentleman from Belgium already mentioned before, as I see it as a participation expert, investors and even kind of ministries or government entities go too fast and too hard on communities. Like we've seen very extreme timelines. In order to simplify it, sometimes investors expect that they will just, appear in the public meeting, run a 90 minutes or 2-hour workshop, and at the end they expect basically people to agree on everything and sign the paper. This is just impossible. We've seen enormous presence of fake news and disinformation when it comes to energy-related projects. It's unbelievable. Again, what is an answer to it? Slow down. The community with the educational materials, and as the gentleman from Belgium said, I absolutely agree. Just first talk to them about possibilities, understand their level of understanding of the topic first before showing up with the project, because the project triggers fear. The specific project triggers fear, and fear obviously triggers some type of counteraction from the community. So it's absolutely understandable. The other thing that we've been witnessing, and this goes after governmental institutions, private investors, there is so much information vacuum once the process is happening, that then it's very easy to fill it in with whatever type of, again, disinformation or fake news by basically anyone who wants to torpedo the whole process. So this I kind of see as like present problems that need to be faced when someone plans the participatory deliberative consultation approach. So we developed a process that has multiple steps. We kind of convinced the investor to slow down, don't do it in 2 weeks, take 4 to 6 months. It's important to say that the investor has a very responsible approach towards the community, and they really spent a lot of time with the members of community who don't understand the issue, who kind of see some type of conflict or need like a special care individually or during the public meeting. So it actually has been a really good experience. And maybe I would also add that it's important not to forget about what happens right after the community actually gives either a green light or is unsure about the future of the project. You cannot leave the area, because usually the permit process lasts another 2, 3, whatever years, especially in the Czech Republic. So it's important to basically keep servicing. Maybe Lukáši, if you wanted to give a feedback on the process, and maybe if you could kind of compare it to other experience that you have from other places.
Yeah, participation is a key. Like engagement makes your make a statement as a no in my backyard to yes in my backyard. Just tell the people you can go with you. It's not meant to say that Dirk with a blank sheet of paper. It's not far from for truth. The people has to know that they are a part of all the process. They are part of. They can take the benefit. They can take a part in energy. I would like to mention a context. Historically, the people in Czech, I think in Europe, is similar the energy sector is in the hands of government or huge companies. Now we have to tell them you can take a part, and the participation show the way how they can take it.
I would also mention, because this is not the only project we've done, we finished 6 projects, 4 with NOHO, I'll talk about it a little bit later, and 2 with other clients. And we have another dozen in a pipeline right now, basically when we are hired as negotiators between the community and the investor and the municipality leadership. It's also important to have in mind that every single community is different. We are seeing dramatic difference when it comes to understanding of the topic, expectations, the kind of openness to which way they want to collaborate with the investor. You know, it really depends also, it usually comes from the social demographic economic characteristics of the community. You can see somewhere people just want to talk about benefits in a financial terms, and they want to basically grab cash as much as possible, as fast as possible, and they're kind of fine with the project. In some communities, and Wojciechów was one of them, people basically came to the first meeting with the clear idea that they want to share the whole project. You know, they want to be involved as shareholders. They want to talk about energy community frameworks, basically very matured type of demographic. So it's extremely important not to have kind of templated process for every single community. It's really important to work with experts who understand participation and can sensitively, you know, change the methods and tools accordingly what's basically going on the ground. What I would like to mention as another kind of interesting point, and again, in the context of the Czech Republic, the important point is that the council, the municipality representatives, basically the council or assembly or mayor and their team, they get approval by community that the council can sign a planning contract with the investor. But what is the proof? That's also a big question mark, and it changes council by council. Here is a few examples that we've done already: referendum, survey, polls, or maybe just the outcomes of the public meeting discussion. It really depends how the council sees it. So in our context, it's our job to basically be available to the council members, answer and explain to them all the different ways how they can get as valuable as possible feedback from the community, so they feel safe and they can continue the negotiations and contract negotiations with the investor. This also takes a lot of skills. Another point that I would like to kind of point out is sometimes we are facing projects or areas where actually the council is for whatever reason, slowing down the process of actually potential of building solar or wind. And it can be very kind of stupid, low-grade reasons. Maybe the mayor also owns a land that, you know, and he's in competition with someone else who owns a land and is ready to rent it out to solar or wind, you know, energy company. Sometimes there is some shady deals going on. So I would say that the participatory process with the focus on transparency, with the focus on reporting and basically creating the protocols really makes the whole thing way more understandable and transparent. So there's also a big anti-corruption feature of this approach, I would say. We are running out of time very quickly. With the NOHO company, we have done 4 projects so far. As you can see on the percentage, this is the percentage of basically people in the village agreeing with the project. So far, we have been 100% successful, but only due to a very sensitive approach as we were describing it. Maybe, Lukáši, how even now, like, how do you see that the citizens in Wojciechów are reacting to the whole thing? Like, do you kind of see some negative reactions because it has been almost a year since we did the deliberative process, or yeah, what was the reaction of the public to the process?
It's a key. They feel to be a part of a project, and that's all the problems. There was actualization, like a meeting with the people, like again after the 3 meetings, after the participation process, and there was a trip around the wind turbine. They are waiting. They are searching how legislative process are moving forward, and they think about it as a part of their village.
Awesome. From my part, what has been a learning experience for us is that, as I said before, every scenario is so, for example,
Tomas, I think we lost you there for a few seconds. So if you can,
Okay.
right when you were about to start with the lesson that you've learned.
Oh, okay. The lesson that we learned is that it's extremely important to be flexible when it comes to methods that are being used while working with the community. Just a survey is not enough. Just a public meeting is not enough. We've been experimenting a lot with the different scripts for the public meetings, or, for example, in another project which goes outside of the kind of NoHo projects, we've employed canvassing, which literally means door-to-door knocking, spending time with people, gathering their kind of input even before the public meeting happens. So it's important to think about it as there is a basically whole palette of methods and tools, but the right sequence and the right use of these methods obviously takes some type of experience, but clearly see from the results when it comes to NoHo projects, it has been successful. The approach seems to work. I have last 2 slides, kind of lessons learned. And Lukáši, would you like to add something?
I would like to mention importance about networking and preparation before the meeting starts. And I would like to mention probably the most important part is the independence of experts on a meeting, that people can ask and get qualified answers.
I absolutely agree. That goes back to all the fake news and disinformation, and it's just mind-blowing how much misunderstanding there is. My favorite one, which is from 3 weeks ago from a different project. We did a public meeting for a client wanted to build a solar in one of the municipalities in the south of the Czech Republic. And one of the kind of prevalent feedbacks of the people is, why do you want to build like this on a land which is basically farming land, even though there was a very, very low quality of the soil? And one of the guys, which was present people, which was actually a council member in this case, said, and I love this quote, he said, what would you prefer? Would you prefer to be fed, eat in the dark, or be hungry with the lights on? You know, so this is like a type of things and quotes that we are facing when you really go in the field. And again, my answer to is slow down, make sure that you use multi-channel approach, offer people to understand the topic first before you hit them with kind of, project, public meetings and all that kind of negotiation, and basically give them time to understand and comprehend. So discuss, service them, and make them believe that the process is transparent. This is extremely, extremely important. And remember that every situation vision is very different, and every community is very different. We are moving more and more into more methodological assessment and analysis of the communities before even entering the location, trying to understand how they would react to what if there is a large number of people in debt, if what's the educational level of the people, and so on. It really makes a difference, because then we can shape and shift and kind of curate the narrative that they need to hear, and the level of expertise and the complexity of the information that are offered to them. So again, I'm sorry for going through the presentation so quickly. I have 3 minutes before leaving. Maybe Lukáš, would you like to say something at the end? No? Okay, fine.
Nothing important.
So thanks a lot for having us. I mean, I can still answer one question quickly if there is one. In case you would have more questions, feel free to email me. We will be more than happy to share our experience from the field. And yeah, my take on that, it's not impossible. It's not impossible. And actually, it's important to be very empathetic towards the communities and try to understand why they are so against it. And there are methods and ways how to work with them. So it's not impossible. Be positive about it.